This day I will tell you a short story about a baker's dozen. I hope you can enjoy it and you can learn some of a moral in this story. Let's start the story. Do you know where the phrase baker's dozen originated? Long ago, in Albany, New York, there was a successful baker with a thriving business, and a large family. An unsightly old woman paid the baker a visit just as he was about to close his shop. The elderly lady desired to purchase a dozen of the special St. Nicholas cookies displayed on a tray. The good baker counted out 12 cookies, and handed them to the lady with care. The lady was wearing a frown. She counted the cookies again, and asked the baker why he had only given her 12, when she had requested a dozen. For a brief moment, the baker appeared surprised. Then he realized that a few of the other bakers in town would give their customers an extra cookie or two. As a result, the elderly lady was perplexed as to how many were in a dozen. He, on the other hand, was not one of them. The baker had to explain to the elderly lady that a dozen meant only 12 cookies, and that he had given her the correct amount of cookies. When the elderly lady insisted on an extra cookie, the baker explained that he had a large family to care for, and had no intention of giving anything away for free. He politely asked her to leave if she did not want to accept what was offered to her. The lady quietly exited the shop, leaving all of the cookies behind. From that point forward, it appeared that bad luck had entered the baker's life. His cakes were stolen, but the thieves were never apprehended. His bread would either become too heavy, and fall through the oven into the fire, or it would rise high above, and float out the chimney week after week. The baker was terrified for the first time in his life. When he remembered the old woman, he realized he had been cursed. The following week, the elderly lady returned to the baker's shop, this time asking for a baker's dozen of freshly baked cookies. Misfortune had enraged him to the point where he cursed her, and slammed the door in her face. The week that followed was even worse than the one before. Bread was always burnt or soggy, and cakes and cookies lost their flavor. The bakery's quality was deteriorating as a result of the baker's age. Customers eventually left and went to other bakers. The baker was devastated. He had no other choice but to seek the assistance and blessings of Saint Nicholas, the patron saint of merchants, in order to save his failing business. He went to a nearby church, and begged the saint to save him and his family from the old lady's curse. After the prayer, he returned to his shop with trepidation, and began baking a fresh batch of St. Nicholas cookies, despite his heart's emptiness. As the cookies baked, his already troubled mind was tortured by numerous thoughts about the outcome of the cookies. Moments flew by as he waited, preoccupied with how the cookies would turn out. When it came time to take the freshly baked cookies out of the oven, he was surprised to find them perfectly baked. He was overjoyed after 3 weeks of misery as he began to place the successfully baked cookies on the tray where they could be seen from the outside. When he looked up, he noticed St. Nicholas standing directly in front of him. The baker, who was weakened by shock, found it difficult to stand, and slumped on the chair. He couldn't take his gaze away from the saint, who was looking at him sympathetically. The baker buried his face in his hands, unable to speak, and made a valiant effort to keep the tears at bay. My entire life was dedicated to serving the needy, and wiping away the tears of those who suffered, St. Nicholas said. This is something God has always taught us. He has always been generous to us, so why should we, his children, be any different? The baker remained motionless as he listened to the saint's soothing voice. Is an extra cookie a high price to pay for the generosity that God has showered on us? The saint continued. With that, the saint vanished. The baker was blessed by the saint's soothing words, which seemed to wash away all of his troubles. When the baker heard the door of his shop open a few moments later, he saw the same old woman asking for a baker's dozen of freshly baked St. Nicholas cookies. The baker, a changed man, smiled at the old woman, counted 13 cookies, and gave them away for free. After a brief glance at the baker, the old lady declared that the spell had been broken. A baker's dozen would always mean 13 from then on. After learning his lesson, the baker began to generously give away everything he baked. 13 would always mean a baker's dozen to him. Thank you for listening my story, I hope you like it. Please show your support by click like and subscribe to this channel. And when you want another story to read, please comment below. My name Kak Aiko, see you on the next story.